Hey everybody, I guess I wanted to start doing a video diary of my times going through a knee replacement. About a week and a half ago, I had my knee replaced. For about 10 years, I'd been battling knee pain. I was the guy who jumped out of a perfectly good airplane. And luckily for me, they stopped airport traffic as I came down on the runway. Now, I do realize that the landing zone was someplace else, but the wind and gusts sort of had different ideas as to where I was actually going to land. Needless to say, my knee did not fare well in that. And I was told, hey, in 8 weeks, 12 weeks, your knee's going to heal. And then when you're 40, it's going to come back and haunt you. I'd like to say my doctor was wrong. It actually came back and haunted me when I was about 41 instead, actually. But, 10 plus years later, after that, I'm finally getting my knee taken care of. And everything that I had heard, especially from people I knew who had gotten it, all said, wow, it was the best decision they'd ever made, and they wish they had done it years sooner. And, a week and a half into this, I can totally see why people say that. But things happen during the course of, the recovery that I did not know anything about. And it kind of took me by surprise. And I'm hoping that by doing this, video diary about my knee replacement, it might offer some heads up warnings to other people who are going to have it done. Now, I'm not telling you yes or no, don't do it, or do it, absolutely. You got to decide that for yourself. But there are certain things that I wasn't aware of that happen, because your body is a miraculous thing. It does interesting things when it's trying to heal. And it would have been nice if someone had told me about some of these things, so at least I was aware of them. So in this first video diary, I'm actually going to go back in time and kind of lay out what happened leading up to, basically the appointments leading up to the actual surgery. And I'd say, what happened on surgery day. So first, the lead up to surgery day, there were really four appointments that led up to surgery day. The first was at Raleigh Orthopedic with Dr. Bradley Vaughn, who's the surgeon who did my knee replacement. We took x-rays of both knees, and it was evident to see that I had no cartilage remaining in my left knee, and I had less than a third cartilage remaining in my right knee. And in fact, both knees do really need a knee replacement, because at times, the pain in my left knee was constant and had been constant for years, and I've been pretty much living day to day on Motrin, which is one of the reasons why I had another appointment. And then my right knee, every now and again, I'll get a spasm of pain that'll like bowl me over and get me to swear like a drunken sailor. And so it was deemed I needed to have both knees replaced, and we were going to start with the left knee. The second appointment was a pre-surgical physical, because fortunately I had been taking more than the advised amounts of Motrin just to try and get through my days. And so I needed a battery of blood tests to make sure that I didn't have any liver problems or underlying kidney problems. So I had to go to my general practitioner for what was called a pre-surgical physical, and even had an EKG there, and it was basically a green light. Everything was fine, and I would be all set and ready to go for surgery day. The third appointment was at the hospital itself on Lake Boone Trail in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's really, they do all the pre-admission stuff. They do all the stuff that you normally have to do to be admitted to the hospital, but they do it in advance, so you don't, basically eat up a whole lot of time on surgery day trying to do that stuff. You also have an appointment with a surgical nurse who goes over again your entire medical history and makes sure that they know every medication you're taking. Oh, you have to bring in the bottles of every medication you're taking. And so I do take a blood pressure medicine, so I have to bring that. I take something for allergies, and I also take men's one a day. So I had to bring those things so they could see exactly what they were and what the dosages were. And then I also had another appointment that same day there at the hospital with the anesthesiologist to make sure that I wouldn't have any problems with what anesthesia they were going to administer. The fourth appointment before the surgery day was actually just a COVID test. And these pandemic times, they wanted to make sure that I was COVID free. I had a blood test to show that I didn't have any of the antibodies, so that I was clear there. Had to take the COVID test 48 hours prior to the surgery, and then I was supposed to self-isolate for 48 hours. All right, surgery day. We were asked to report to the hospital at 6 a.m. We got there. We had to do like the COVID screening, temperature screening. They do ask you to swap out whatever face mask you've got with the one that the hospital provides you with, which is not really a big deal. And then about 6:45 or whatever, they called me back into the pre-op. Actually, a surgical nurse, she came and she got me. Her name was Doreen. She was a class act. Really, all the folks there at the hospital were just amazing. And so my wife had to wait outside, still in the waiting area for a little while Doreen got me prepped. The height, weight, blood pressure, double check what meds, if any, I had taken that day. And you're supposed to fast from like midnight the night before or whatever. I was allowed 8 ounces of apple juice as long as I took it prior to 5 a.m. it was. Yeah, so I think it was like 5 a.m. I had to take it. And so Doreen got me all set up with that. And then, sort of you get into one of these nice surgical gowns, which fashionable, not so much. Functional for them, yeah, okay. Drafty for sure. Anyhow, Doreen, she ran a IV through my hand, and it was so amazingly gentle. It just felt like a small little pinch. Someone pinched your skin. It didn't feel like a prick or anything. Which was really interesting because earlier another technician came by to do a blood draw, which I didn't know what it was for, but man, he really bruised me pretty badly, and oh, it hurt. And so I was kind of apprehensive, but yeah, Doreen, couldn't feel a thing. Yeah. And then that blood test, the weird thing about that blood test was all they were doing was checking my blood type, which was already there in their records, so I don't know why they needed to do that, but they did it, and whatever. It is what it is, as they say. And so once I was on, I guess it was I don't know if it was the surgical gurney or whatever it was, but it had wheels and it moved around. And so once I was in the gown and sitting on there, my wife was brought back. And so we hung out there for quite some time. And then someone from transport, I want to say this was maybe like around 8 o'clock or so, took us, seemed like quite a ways away from the pre-op area. We made one stop at the surgical waiting room where my wife had to wait. And then they took me to yet another pre-surgical, pre-op area where, I was just hanging around. People came in. an anesthesia nurse. Yeah, she came in, she checked in on me. And, this was another place where, once again, I got to give the nursing staff at Rex Hospital just huge kudos. There were a couple of other patients one was to the left of me, and then there was another one who was across the aisle from me. And not getting into too many details, but oh my God, they were so high maintenance. And the nursing staff, they were so calm, so collected, so professional dealing with them, kind and caring. Yeah, the nursing staff, I can't rave enough about how great they really were. So anyhow, it was probably, I want to say 8:45, 8:50 or something like that, when they were saying they were going to take me to the operating room. But the anesthesia nurse said, "Oh, wait a minute, before we go, I have to do one thing." And I remember them pulling the curtain back on the little area where I was at. And then quite literally, the next thing I remember is waking up in the post-surgical area. I was like, it was crazy. It was this grogginess, this sleepiness, that, yeah, it's crazy unless you've been through it. It's like the deepest sleep that you need to try and wake up from, but you just can't seem to get out from. So from them opening that curtain in the pre-surgical area to me waking up in the post-surgical area, I've got no clue. But what had happened was, once they had knocked me out with propofol, I'll look up what exactly it is. They run it into your IV, and it just knocked me right out. And they also did a spinal, so not, I guess not quite the same thing as what they give the ladies when they're having birth, but an epidural, right? But it's along the same lines. It basically numbs you from the stomach down, and you can't feel anything. And so anyhow, when I woke up in the post-surgical area, I think the area where they must have done the spinal, oh my God, I could barely talk. And I think the only things I could coherently say were, or at least I thought I was saying it, was pain, back, 10. On the scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain level like? It was definitely a 10. And I think I was just drifting in and out at this point, or just sucking it up as far as to what the pain was. And I remember the post-surgical nurse saying something, and I don't even remember her name. I think I was just so far out of it. She said, "Okay, I'll give you something for the pain." And then I don't remember anything again until I think I actually kind of woke up a bit. So whatever it was, it stopped the pain enough that I fell back asleep. And when I was up, she was asking me how my back was doing, and I said, "Oh yeah, it feels totally fine." She goes, "Yeah, you kind of gave us a little bit of a scare with the, what you were saying about your back." So I guess I was saying a lot more than I recollect, but it happened to me. There's nothing to say that it would happen to you, but when I was actually finally awake, it was all fine. It was as if though nothing had happened. They gave me some graham crackers and one of those little tiny cans of ginger ale. And they told me that they were waiting for a room to open up in the orthopedic floor, which was the 6th floor of the hospital. And so while I was out, what had happened was, they gave me the spinal, they did the actual procedure, and I'll get into some more details about the procedure as to what actually happens, or you could look up other resources for what actually happens. And it effectively took about an hour, so I was in the operating room from about surgery from like about 9:05 to 10 o'clock. So yeah, just under an hour. And yeah, between waiting for a room to become available and someone to transport me up there, another couple of hours had elapsed, and I don't think I had made it to the orthopedic floor until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So now on to the orthopedic room on the 6th floor at Rex. So when I got up there, my wife was already waiting for me there, so that was really great. And it was actually the first time I had the opportunity to get anything to eat. And so they actually have a menu you can order from. And so I ended up getting a cheeseburger and side salad, which it doesn't really matter how good or bad it was. I was so hungry at that point because I hadn't eaten anything since like 7 p.m. the previous day, other than that 8 ounces of apple juice at 5 in the morning. So I was able to order that, and yeah, not much sooner than I'd gotten there. Our nurse, well, my nurse there was, named Alexa, and she was, again, great. Just, I can't say enough great things about the nursing staff there at the Rex Hospital. And she took a whole bunch of vitals, and blood pressure was a little elevated, which isn't hard to imagine considering I just went through like major surgery and some serious pain in my back where they had done the spinal. And so she did a whole bunch of things. And then someone from physical therapy came. They got me up and walking on a walker that night, that day. So I want to say it was like maybe 5 o'clock or so. Yeah, we did the first PT session. Walked from my room all the way to the gym, which isn't that far. I'd say maybe it was 300, 400 yards, but still, that's kind of a lot considering you just went through knee replacement. Did a few things about walking around with a walker. They had this little platform thing where you can walk up 3 steps and walk down 3 steps, so you get the idea of what it is to go up and down stairs. Then got back to the room, and then someone from occupational therapy was there. And we went through a whole bunch of things about, using the bathroom and puttering around the house and little odd and end other things. And that was really great. But, it takes energy from you, and you've just been through this huge surgical procedure. And it was right at that moment, Alexa came back to check my vitals again to see whether or not I was cleared for being released that night. And I guess if you're not released by 8 p.m., they're not going to release you. They're going to keep you overnight. So needless to say, my blood pressure, because I had just done all that PT and occupational therapy, was way high. I want to say it was something like 190 over 120. Maybe that wasn't it, but it was pretty high. It was up there. Clearly higher than they were going to allow me to be released. Luckily, cooler heads prevailed, and I told them, I said, hey, all this stuff really just happened, so if you just give me about half hour, an hour, I'm sure the blood pressure will come down pretty, steadily. And sure enough, I think like by about 7:30 or whatever, came back and took my blood pressure again, and it was within the range that would allow me to be released that night. And between other paperwork, this, that, the other thing. Oh, and then the Rex Pharmacy, they show up with your big baggie of medications that you're supposed to take over the next course of the day. And I guess I'll put that in the next video. Just what are the medications starting from day 2 and what they all do. All right, so I would say, got released, got into the car, and by 9 p.m. I was back home, and by 9:15, 9:20, I was asleep in my own bed, my head on my own pillow. And so that's it for this video, and hopefully you'll check out the next one. Thanks.